Vice Chair. Call meeting order, please. Roll call. Nikki, please. Joe Roca. Here. Betsy Bennett. Here. Ty Hilton. Here. And Jason Rock. Here. And Patty Thayer will be joining us remotely. And when she logs on, then I will go over the next part. But hang on, we have a sort of a technical issue.
It seems to be resolved.
Oh, did I? I'm sorry. Carrie Burnett. Carrie Burnett. Here. Yes. Thank you for being here, Carrie. Thank you. Appreciate it. So. Sorry. Testing. Is it the cell phone?
Is it your computer?
It's computer. It shouldn't be.
Yeah, it's coming from you.
Is it?
Is the laptop that is connected?
Yeah, your mic is open. Oh, as it should be.
I thought audio was through the owl.
The audio, this audio is set. Sorry about that. I will fix that as we get moving. Thank you.
Ready? Okay. So we need to approve tonight's agenda. Can I get somebody to? Second.
So that, and I'll have to do it roll call. So it was moved by Patty. Okay, sorry. And Betsy.
Betsy and Ty.
Okay.
Yes, at this point, are we doing a roll call?
I do roll call. For
Okay.
that one. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Joe?
Yep.
Betsy? Yes. Carrie? Ty?
Yes.
And,
All right. Now we have the statement of conflict of interest. So is there anybody on the council who feels like they need to step back because of the topic that we're covering tonight? No, I see no nays. And now we move on to approving the minutes from our June meeting. Shouldn't it be July? Are we? It's July's that are attached, I believe.
yeah, the July minutes are attached. That's a clerical error, so that's okay.
Okay, so we're approving, what's the July date? Approval of the minutes from the July 10th meeting? Betsy?
Okay,
And Joe?
got it. And then Vicky? A roll call vote.
Approved.
Joe?
Mhm. Yes.
Betsy?
Yes.
Carrie?
Yep.
Hi. Okay.
All right, now we've got council member comments on topics that aren't covered in tonight's meeting. Does anybody have anything?
Yeah, I do. I want to share a follow-up from last month's meeting, Ken Tam, Park Planner, Sonoma County Regional Parks. And just say that he's updated that regarding the Mirabelle Road project. They are going to Sonoma County Public Infrastructure Traffic Division will be hiring a consultant to conduct a traffic calming analysis on Mirabelle Road.
Fabulous.
And he did follow up with the Sonoma County Transit, and they did do a study about the River Road, but they weren't able to make changes because of the pullout. But it was great. I wanted to share the
That's
follow-up.
amazing. Thank you, Terry.
Yeah,
There
and
was a lot of concern about it.
I know, so I think it's really great news. And then I don't have the dates, but I know Forestville Pie in the Park is coming up. I think the 30th.
August 30th. I'll just announce it now.
Thank
We're having, yes, the second annual Pie in the Park from 2 to 5 p.m. in the Forestville Oaks Park. And it was a lot of fun last year. It'll be a lot of fun this year. We've got some new stuff going on, but there's a pie contest, pie share, pie walk, lots of pie. There's also going to be a dunk tank this year. I don't know if Linda's schedule is going to allow her to do it, but oh, hey, were you able to? I know you're waiting on your. Okay. So maybe you can come and dunk Linda, but there'll be lots of people to dunk, and it helps us support the Oaks Park for the next year. So please attend that. I also wanted to let everybody know that I attended the Department of Energy Emergency Management. Is that it? Okay. Meeting last week about the new emergency plan, the draft emergency plan that the county's putting together. There was quite a bit of discussion about issues with single egress roads, with people feeling like there isn't a lot of coordination when you have a community, not just community-wide, but all of the Lower Russian River being evacuated. And just a lot of questions and concerns. And Amy from Safer West County mentioned that the Safer West County and Sonoma County Emergency Management is putting on what they're calling a Train the Trainer event on August 27th from 6 to 8 p.m. at the Monterey Community Center. And it's for people in their communities who want to help lead evacuation drills, who are looking for opportunities to expand egress, and ways to get your community involved in preparing for emergencies. So that's August 27th. We have a COPE of the Hollydale Canyon Terrace new COPE group that will have an evacuation drill in my area, Hacienda, on September 27th between 8 and 10. And we're asking the whole community to be involved in that. So thank you.
And that's the Pine Park.
No, that's September 27th. Pine Park is August 3rd.
Okay.
We wouldn't schedule something at the same
I
time.
heard something.
I did want to mention too that I requested of the county, just so all of you know, we had yet another drowning in my neighborhood a couple of weeks ago, and we understand that we can't solve all drownings, that things will happen on the river, but there are things we can do to minimize risk. One of the things I've asked the county to look at past year is restricting access to the western underneath side of the Hacienda Bridge. We did that on the eastern side a couple of years ago, and it's really helped. but people can still get underneath the bridge. There's a rope swing that keeps going up no matter how many times the sheriff and everybody goes over there. And unfortunately, someone swung off that rope swing and never came up. And I just feel like that is something that we can do something about, is restrict that access. And whenever there's things that we can do, let's try to do them. Like, we should be shooting for nobody drowns in the river some summer. Wouldn't that be great? Anyway, okay. Anything else from anybody? So we'll move.
Is there any signage there? We can't have discussion.
Oh, sorry.
Sorry, this is just, sorry.
All right, and now we're going to ask the public, anybody here or online, if they have something they want, a topic they want to bring up that isn't on the current agenda. Anybody online? Okay, great.
Tracy.
Mara, please unmute to speak.
Hi, thank you for taking my, mine and my husband's, question. We are opposed to having any rainbow, crosswalks. Number one, we've had pedestrians hit on Main Street at that one blind intersection. And I think the manual on uniform traffic control devices, the MUTCD, would frown upon anything that possibly could endanger pedestrians trying to cross the highway. Is this working? Can you hear me?
Yes, thank you, Mara.
Okay. That's all I have to say. And my husband here, Greg, do you agree?
I agree.
Yeah, let's just keep it, Old Town and keep our white crossings. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else online?
I'm not seeing any other hands raised online.
Okay, thank you, Tracy. Now we'll go
My
to
apologies, Vicky. I did miss one hand that had been up that is going up and down. Denise, please unmute to speak.
Okay, can you hear me now?
We can hear you, Denise.
Okay, because I was having trouble. Anyways, my name is Denise, and I've been on the Russian River for 53 years, and I as well have concern for the rainbow crosswalks, and it feels like I'm not getting any information. I've reached out to Linda Hopkins' office several times and haven't gotten direct answers to my questions regarding this project. And I don't even know who started the project, how we talk about it. Can we get it on the agenda item for the next meeting? I will attend in person because this Zoom doesn't work very well. It's difficult to navigate and interact with you guys. So I would really like to be present, but I don't know how to get it on the agenda so we can talk more and I can get more informed about what's going on. And those are my thoughts.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Hi,
Well,
my name,
can you move up a little bit so that the owl can hear you? So the people on the Zoom can hear you?
hi. Hi, everyone.
The podium is.
Hi, everyone. My name is Fern. Nice to meet you all. I've been a resident of Russian River for about 5 years now. I just wanted to get some information I've been hearing about the crosswalk for a bit. And I just wanted to get some information of where the funding is coming from for this particular area, just so I can have more learnings on what is happening within the Russian River. But thank you so much.
Thank you, Fern. Well, we'll go right into county update then. Linda, thanks for being here.
Right.
So I wanted to start with an update on the hunger strike and the request from many community activists that the county of Sonoma adopt a sanctuary ordinance. First of all, we actually have some printed materials at the sign-in table. So there's a letter that I sent out as an email newsletter for anyone who is up on the email newsletter list. And then we also actually have copies of the resolution that was adopted by the Board of Supervisors on January 10th, which was a resolution to uphold the civil rights, dignity, health, and safety of our immigrant population and all Sonoma County residents. Here are a few of the reasons why I do not support the existing proposal, but why I also am very deeply committed to working with our immigrant community to actually deepen sanctuary protections in Sonoma County. Part of the challenge with the proposal that was brought forward with the activists is that we can't actually legally stop ICE from arresting folks. We do not have the power to do that. And so when you do something like you say, you're creating a sanctuary ordinance, it can actually create essentially an empty promise or a sort of false hope that we can't actually follow through on. And so I did not personally feel like I could cast a vote for something that I knew wouldn't actually have a direct impact on the lives of most of our immigrant community, but that would kind of hold up and sort of act like it was. I also one of the reasons why it wouldn't really do anything is that the Board of Supervisors actually has no control over the sheriff's office. And so the request was actually that the sheriff stop all notifications going to ICE. And to give you a little bit of information about what the sheriff's current policy is that right now the sheriff does not actually detain or hold people for ICE. The sheriff does not cooperate or provide support for any immigration sweeps or raids. The only time that the sheriff actually hands over a human being to ICE is if there is a judicial warrant that is signed, and that's a legal requirement for the sheriff's office to do that. The only other way that the sheriff's office interacts with ICE is as follows. And I want to kind of explain it from two strategies. So number one, if you were a random member of the public and you called the sheriff's office and you gave them the name of someone and you said, when is this person going to be released from the main adult detention facility, from jail? The sheriff would tell you that information. They would give you a date, they would give you a time. If ICE calls and makes that request, the sheriff follows SB 54, which was the state law that was passed that actually protects immigrants and kind of reduces the amount of times that the sheriff will actually provide notifications to ICE with specifically that information. Now, Sheriff Ingram has actually gone above and beyond that and only provides notifications for serious and violent felony convictions. So not even just sort of arrests, he's actually now moved to convictions, which means that it has to have actually occurred, right? It wasn't just sort of an arrest that may or may not result in convictions. He has tightened up the policy and actually sort of made it more restrictive since last year. But last year, the notifications that were provided by the sheriff's office resulted in 10 arrests on the grounds of the main adult detention facility. So that is kind of the sort of population that we're talking about based upon the proposal that was brought forward by the folks to the county in the past week. So it doesn't actually protect the general immigrant population. It really is specifically about those sort of 10 arrests and the notifications that are provided. But the reality is that we actually can't tell the sheriff what to do. And the sheriff actually stopped by. I spent a couple of hours with the hunger strikers over the last week. And Sheriff Ingram actually stopped by and actually told them that even if the Board of Supervisors adopted this ordinance, that he has no requirement to follow it and he would not follow it. So I don't really feel good trying to pass something that actually isn't enforceable or implementable, which is why I did not support the proposal. That said, I want Sonoma County to be a sanctuary community. I want us to protect and safeguard our immigrant population. And I want to make sure that folks have access to services, that they are not living in fear, and that we can do absolutely everything that we can do in terms of deportation defense and immigration support to try to protect folks. And so even though the board didn't agree with the request from the activists, Vice Chair Rebecca Hermosillo and I have formed an ad hoc that will be meeting weekly with the community members who were active in the hunger strike. We're trying to figure out how big of a group that is, how we make sure there's enough representation. We have our first meeting scheduled for next Monday. And so we're going to be taking an hour a week until we have something that we can bring back to the Board of Supervisors that we actually feel like will result in, you know, creating a sanctuary and creating a safe space and making sure that our immigrant community, is protected and uplifted. I don't want something to just be sort of symbolic and in word only. I want it to actually be effective. And so that is my goal. And I'm hopeful that within the next, hopefully couple of months, we can come and bring something back before the Board of Supervisors. I'm happy to answer any questions on that subject, but wanted to kind of give a thorough download because I've been hearing from a lot of folks about it because a lot of people care, which is actually a really, really good sign, that we live in a community that has compassion and that opposes the dumpster fire that is raining down on a daily basis from the federal administration. I feel
Well,
like
I have to say, when I read your message about it, it really resonated with me that we don't wanna give false hope. And that is something that would be really concerning to me. That, okay, come here and you're fine when you may not be fine. But it's also nice to hear on the other side of that, that the sheriff's office understands our commitment to our immigration population.
I believe, and I sort of need to check and review the history, but I believe that this is the most progressive policy that the sheriff's office has had. Certainly since I've been on the board and since the adoption of the state law, but he has increasingly kind of restricted the number of times in which he does provide ICE with that information about when folks are going to be released from the mandatory detention facility. All right, moving on to, and I feel like kind of dumpster fire is the word of the year. And the next one, which is the Vacation Beach Dam that people also are constantly reaching out to us about. And I just want to give a huge shout out to Russian River and Rec and Park in that they are working really hard on this. They are doing everything that they can. I wanted to share their latest update, which was from August 1st. They said, we continue our Vacation Beach Dam repair efforts. Our district manager is in conversations with the Division of Safety of Dams and our consulting engineers on the appropriate scope of the repair projects and the acceptable liabilities. We expect to get more information from the consulting engineers next week. The formal application process will still take some time and involve approval at multiple levels in DSOD. So I think despite the huge passion from the community and their very hard work, it sounds like they are kind of caught in a bit of state bureaucratic purgatory. But if there's anything that we can do to support them, we have offered our assistance and you know, hopefully that will be moving forward. Also wanted to let you all know that at our Board of Supervisors meeting on Tuesday, the Board of Supervisors adopted the General Plan 2020 update on the safety element and the new environmental justice element. This is like a carryover from the last general plan, not the new general plan that we're also embarking on. As you can tell, we're a little slow in government. That general plan was supposed to go and be ended by 2020. Well, we're like a few years late on that, and we just finally implemented the sort of updates to the last couple of elements. So we have a draft vision, which is available on the website. One of the things that I want to highlight is that the next phase of the update will really start focusing on targeted community engagement, and would love to brainstorm with you, how do we get folks to turn out to these meetings? So unfortunately, we've held some of these meetings in West County and there was like more staff than members of the public, which is never a balance we want to see. And we really want to make sure that folks are engaged in charting the direction of their small towns. So excited for the next steps. And I have also requested that all of our local agencies receive presentations from Permit Sonoma staff. So whether that's, you know, a CSD or a water district or a park and rec district, so that they also have direct input. So, and then finally, actually a couple of things, maybe before I go to the crosswalks, I will mention water safety. I really want to thank you, Vice Chair, for bringing that up. It has been a heartbreaking year. In addition to the fatalities in the Russian River, we experienced a really horrible season on the coast with multiple drownings, including multiple drownings within one family, you know, earlier this year. And so I've been brainstorming with public safety agencies. I actually happened to run into Sherry Pimsler from Monterey Rec and Park at Lightwave earlier this morning, and we talked briefly about it. And then later ran into Shepley, the Gold Ridge Fire Chief, and we had a conversation about it. I've talked to folks from Sonoma County Fire. We are doing everything we can, and yet folks are still slipping through the cracks. So if anyone has any ideas, there was kind of a brainstorming that was happening on one of the local social media groups. I think that reaching out into the schools would be a really positive thing, just trying to educate folks on the danger. And one of the things that came up recently is the sort of big hole right below Monterey Beach, where it suddenly gets very deep very quickly. And because the dam isn't in, that actually does create more water flow that's unimpeded, that's fast. And so what I've heard from some of the old timers is back in the day, you actually couldn't swim in that area. It was actually kind of like, that was not allowed. Now it is, there's no disallowance, and so folks are there and have been, I guess, some close calls with local families, but we do have the Vamos a Nadar program, and I want to give huge credit to Lupe Catalan from our office, who worked to really make sure that we were reaching out to the Lower Russian River, having classes there, trying to reach into our schools, and also trying to reach monolingual and bilingual families as well. But from our perspective, absolutely every safety message that we have that goes out, it goes out in both English and Spanish. We have free life jackets at all of the regional parks owned beaches, and folks actually walking out, distributing them and trying to educate the public. And still, we have these really tragic fatalities. So if anyone has any ideas, I am all ears. But I think all the public agencies that I've spoken with feel like we really are putting our best foot forward, and we don't know quite else what to do at this point beyond what we're doing. So, but obviously folks are still falling through the cracks. Finally, wanted to touch on the rainbow crosswalks and answer the question of how this came about. It actually came about, gosh, probably 2 or 3 years ago as a request from the community, who brought forward examples of where this has been done in other jurisdictions. And so with the Caltrans project moving forward, our office then raised this possibility to Caltrans. I've since had a number of conversations with folks, and was actually just at R3 right before this meeting, having a conversation with Jeff about this as well. And one of the things that we're talking about now is, could we come up with a variety of designs for the community to review? First of all, everything will meet the safety codes. That's not a question, that's a requirement. And so this would essentially be sort of decorations around that, or it could potentially be on sort of county-owned streets, or it could potentially be on sort of the actual pavement itself, just, before or just after a crosswalk. So there's a number of ways that we could do this that don't have any impact to public safety and the visibility of the crosswalks. They will all have that, I remember it's like thermoplastic or some whatever fancy reflective raised paint that Caltrans uses. That will definitely be there. And so some of the ideas that have come up were, what if one of them is a river? What if one of them is a multicolored rainbowish river? What if one of them is, like a little sort of redwood forest? What if there is something like we have that we funded through River Arts, where there's a mural with a lot of different rainbow colored flowers? There are sort of different ideas. Actually, someone suggested like, sort of kids, maybe stick figures, like holding rainbow colored or multicolored balloons. Like there might be lots of different ways that we can bring a little bit of beauty and whimsy to downtown, but that's really kind of where it came from, was how do we create more public art and beauty and kind of make downtown Guerneville a place that you want to stop and hang out in. So that's the 2 cents on the sidewalks. I think I covered everything at great length, so feel free to ask any questions about any of the subjects.
If I think I heard you say that there are other communities who've done the rainbow cross, or the Castro. Yeah. Has there been any issues with safety, or has that been looked at?
I would have to do research on that.
Okay.
I'm not aware of any, but that doesn't mean that it doesn't
There
exist.
aren't.
That means that I'm not aware. And then there have also been other initiatives. There was, sort of the Black Lives Matter in Washington DC, right? Was a pretty, famous piece of street art. And I've seen much smaller scale, I think even in Santa Rosa, kind of designs that are on the pavement.
Yeah.
So, we have a few questions. It's like, is it affiliated with a crosswalk or isn't it? What is it? I think that there are a lot of things that go into what is the identity of Guerneville, and how can we share that in a really positive, beautiful way with the community.
Linda or Vicky, do you have any idea whether the drownings are primarily from tourist families or local families?
So I would say that at the coast, it has actually been mostly out of town visitors, usually coming from the Central Valley, and there's often kind of a sense of time pressure that they came here and they have their boat and they're going out to do their, crab fishing or their fishing, regardless of what the weather is. We have seen a lot of locals, sadly.
The 2 in my area were people who came from somewhere else.
Yeah, I was wondering, if there could be more educational information like required to be in Airbnbs. or in motels or hotels, or, you know, if there can be some pamphlets about water safety or something.
Carrie's mentioned that before, and I
It's a
think
really
it's a
good,
really
yeah.
good idea.
Yeah, I like that. We still have the lost local lives in the river,
Sure.
not
Yeah.
sort of the recent ones,
Yeah.
but. we-
And the two in our area were people that came in for the day.
Yeah,
It was one
That
guy's
didn't
birthday,
stay
for
over.
goodness sakes.
Well, and one was, someone was being baptized, one of them.
Yeah, that
was
That was,
really
yeah.
I'm wondering about, when you think about the coast and the big signs as you enter various places to go down to the beach that talk about sleeper waves. If we could, I don't know if there's anything at Steelhead or Sunset or anything like that, or at Monterey that kind of catches people big, to catch your eye when you first, to read about, don't turn your back on the river. You know, there could be.
Well, that it looks like it's not going anywhere, and underneath it.
Right,
there's a-
right, so
there's a process.
some educational material that people can,
There's just multiple entrances and egresses.
yeah, of course.
The sign
Not a
for
Mount Beach.
safety in the Montreal Beach is nowhere near the boat loading ramp. It's near the trash cans on the hillside.
Yeah,
But just yesterday, I was in my kayak at the Montreal ramp. And I was looking at the rocks where I believe the young man jumped from. That whole side of the river has no signage. And signage on that, I guess you would call it the south side of the river, could be seen from the beach, the sandy side of the river. And might deter people who were going to climb up on those rocks if they saw a sign near those rocks. So maybe changing the location of the signage.
Well, I'm thinking kind of walking down from the parking lot, you know, just right,
yes,
you know what I mean?
because that's what they do with like the algae
This is
signs and
becoming a
everything, you know, it's
But if you
before
were-
you hit the beach, you're reading this.
If you got in your
It's
boat
becoming a
at Cook's
discussion
and you
about-
came down, there's no signage there. So people coming down the river have no indication that that's a dangerous place.
Thank you
Only
for the
guidance.
suggestions, but we're going to move on, so thanks. But please let the D5 folks know if you have other ideas.
Yeah, and one thing I do want to mention, so the Monterey beach is the purview of the Monterey Rec and Park Department. And so, you know, I talked to Sherry, she said they do have signs in both English and Spanish. I'm guessing one of the challenges with sign location is that obviously in the winter, right? All of that footing could wash away and the riverbanks
Yeah.
change every year, and so does the sort of subterranean, you know, the sort of the aquatic portion of the river as well, and so it's very tricky. But I really feel like if there's any way to reach kids in schools, I mean, you know, some of those things where if you don't know, right, it's easy to get panicked and to not know, you know what I mean? Like, oh, I don't realize the current can be actually stronger in the middle than it is at the beach, right? Or I'm in a riptide and I don't realize that all I have to do is swim parallel to the beach and I'm no longer stuck in the riptide. And so some of that kind of basic safety would be great to get into our schools and, to your point, into sort of tourist advertisements or in vacation rentals or hotels as well, so. Council member questions and then go to the public.
Yeah, quick question. Can you answer something on a road that wasn't in your top?
I can, if it's kind of related, absolutely.
I just wanted an update on Waller because I see that they're moving. Do you know anything about what's happening to repair?
I would need to check in with Johannes. I have not gotten it for a while. I was getting like weekly updates
Right.
on Mueller.
It's like that.
And he has dropped off because he's probably dealing with some other emergency.
Yes.
But I will check on that. I also want to check on the status of the other Wooler slip out, right? That's near River. Is that what you're talking about?
That's what I'm
Or-
actually talking
Oh,
about.
okay. So not, you're talking about the bridge. You're talking
I'm
about the slip
sorry.
out. Okay.
Yeah.
alright. I will check in with him on that.
Thank you. And I know you were gonna actually check in with the other supervisors regarding maybe a study on water and how it affects that, so it's not just a Band-Aid.
Yeah. Okay. Yes.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I have a question back to the sanctuary thing. The ad hoc that you're putting together, you said you were gonna be working with the faith groups that are doing the hunger strike. Will you invite other people, for example, the labor centers and to represent their constituencies, to have a voice in that?
We spent about an hour discussing this today, myself and Lupe and Vice Chair Hermosillo and Betsy from her office and Christina Rivera. and we don't have an answer yet. It's gonna be difficult. We also did talk about actually taking notes that can be then emailed out to everyone who has an interest in this so that there's transparency. Obviously, you can't have a giant town hall meeting every time you have a 1 hour ad hoc meeting, or you're never gonna get anything done, but I am very worried about making sure that we have enough representation from diverse stakeholders. We talked about, sort of day labor groups. We talked about the Secure Families Initiative, right, who's providing deportation defense services. I've also actually had legal aid have conversations with me about how right now undocumented tenants are terrified to report uninhabitable type of living conditions, and that actually in some cases, and there's actually reportings of this, you have a landlord threatening to have their tenant deported and they complain. So those are the kinds of things of like, how can we protect people? How can we make them feel safe? How can we make sure that they're not being taken advantage of because of this crazy sort of era that we're living in with the fear of deportation? So if you have any feedback on representation, I would love to hear it. We were gonna kind of start with a smaller group just for the Monday's meeting, and at Monday's meeting to actually discuss how do we broaden the representation, who isn't at the table, who should be. And if we say, is it a maximum of 15 people or 10 people? Do people rotate in and out? One of the things we plan to do is to bring different department heads in to have conversations. So like, what can we do on health and human services? Let's bring in the DHS director, Nolan Sullivan, and our human services director, Angela Struckman. Let's bring in the DA to talk about the Family Justice Center and resources potentially for, undocumented survivors of domestic violence. Let's talk about, so I'm kind of hoping that we almost set up a series where we cover a lot, and I would love to bring a package before the board that says, here are some policies we can actually enact, here are some programs that we need to strengthen, and maybe there are requests for financial resources as well to further support the immigrant community. But I'm also just want to share, I'm keenly interested in the Los Angeles Board of Supervisors, and I found out about this from an educated Forestville resident who reached out and was like, did you hear about this? And so then we searched about it. A couple weeks ago, the LA County Board of Supervisors provided direction to see if it's possible to actually set up a no mask policy for law enforcement and require that they actually identify themselves and their law enforcement agencies, which all of our sheriff's deputies already do, right? The only reason they'd be wearing a mask is if there's a fire or there's a hazard, you know what I mean? They're unmasked and they have their names like sewn onto their uniforms. And so we need, with their badges, their sort of patches, so you know who they're from. We need that transparency and accountability from ICE, because otherwise, how do you know if someone is actually being kidnapped? Or they're being taken by law enforcement, right? And so
by vigilante.
Or exactly, that's exactly it. So anyway, so I would love to explore all of the things that other jurisdictions are considering and see where we can go from here. Because folks are really scared, and I wanna do substantive things to try to support.
As a little corollary to that, when you mentioned that the sheriff's department will give information to a member of the general public, I wouldn't put it past.
Yeah, me neither.
Some of these people pretending, I mean, the Penske truck, for goodness sake.
Yeah.
No, I've thought the same thing many times, and I think that there's like a formal notification process, but who's to say, right? There's not informal requests happening as well.
But there's quotas, and that's the issue.
Anybody else on the council have a question for the supervisor?
Oh, if I may, just one other thing that I feel like I've been hearing a lot of misinformation from the community is that a lot of folks are saying, oh, you're not passing the sanctuary ordinance because of fear of loss of federal funding. That ordinance has absolutely no bearing on the potential loss of federal funding, which honestly, we already anticipate. We are already in litigation because money that we were already allocated by Congress is now coming and saying, you don't get this money unless you sign on the dotted line that you're going to cooperate with ICE. And we are not signing on the dotted line. We are in fact taking that to court and saying, you can't do this. This money was already granted to us. But money in the future that was not yet authorized by Congress, right? They could actually now legally do that. And we would, as far as I'm concerned, at least my vote, say no, because you can't. We're not doing that, so.
Anybody, any members of the public who have a question or a concern? Hi, Mike.
Hi, I'm Mike Nichols, and I just had one quick question about Sonoma Water. They have a program where they reach out to about 17,000 young people in grades K through 12 annually with a water class on water
Safety.
economies and so forth. And I'm wondering if they have a safety element included in their course of study. Do you know that?
Sonoma water, down.
Oh, thanks.
I'm so glad you brought that up, because I actually have been thinking about that, but I no longer know the contact. It used to be Ryan Pedrati who ran that program, and then he got promoted to a bigger job at Sonoma Water, but thank you, I will absolutely follow them, because I felt like there you've got a captive audience. And the other good thing is that it's not just Sonoma Water, it's also Sonoma Clean Power, that funds that, and that's the only reason that we have access to it out in the lower Russian River, because we're not Sonoma Water customers, so it took that partnership to actually get our kids out here, but I can definitely reach out and find out if there's an opportunity to have a safety element, and just basic education about the danger of the river. Thank you so much, Meg.
Thank you, Mike. Anybody else in the room? Anybody online? Debbie?
We have one hand raised online. Denise, please unmute to speak.
Hi, thank you. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, this is my first time at a MAC meeting, so I do apologize about my ignorance how things work. But I was hoping to find out, one, how do we get agenda items on the list for future meetings? And still questions about the crosswalks. I know there was talk about it, but I felt like I didn't get information like how do we become part of the design team or have input and participate in those types of things? What group is doing that and when do they meet? And, you know, how do we get invited to that as being part of the community? And then how is it getting funded? And how much is it going to cost? How do we get answers to these things or participate being part of the community? And I don't know how to get answers to these things and how to get agenda items for future meetings.
Well, by being here and asking us to consider something, we make note of it. We have the minutes. You can also, what community do you live in, Denise?
Oh, she's gone.
Oh, you
I
can
live
also.
I live in Guerneville. I live in Guerneville.
Okay. So Joe Rogoff is one of your reps. And I'm sure he'd love to hear from you by email. You can email the D5 office with any topics that you think we need to consider. Our meetings are only once a month, so we have to, you know, kind of figure out how to put the agendas together every month. But we'd love to hear from anybody in the public about things they'd like to have covered in these meetings.
If you go to the Lower Russian River MAC website, there's a list of the members. I'm on there, my email's on there. Please get a hold of me. I'd be happy to meet with you.
Unless Denise, you're in south of the bridge. So on Drake or Neely or Pocket Canyon, then it would be me.
And then I can answer the question about sort of funding and process. You know, one of the challenging things and the great things about the MAC, right, is that we have representation from all of these communities. So there's always a little bit of a question of, you know, if we have a really community specific issue, you know, how do we make sure that we're really uplifting that community's voice? You know, and making sure, for instance, that there is really a focus on Guerneville participation if, say, we're talking about downtown Guerneville. So I think that's partly why we're looking at the chamber, you know, with the businesses downtown as being a potential lead convener for this conversation. But if it's something that the MAC wants to take up, and maybe there's also conversations in other communities about street art, we can absolutely bring a presentation before the board. In the past, for public art, we have amazing nonprofit organizations who do a phenomenal job with a very small amount of money. And so we have provided tourism impact fund grants or community infrastructure grants. We actually recently did, I think around $100,000 of community arts grants that are going into all kinds of things from convenings to murals, to sculptures and other things. And so my sort of sense of how this would move forward was that if Caltrans wasn't going to do it themselves as part of the project, which was one of the options on the table, but we're not sure if they're able to execute that. If that was not possible, we would likely be looking at a community nonprofit, like for instance, River Arts, And that's really just kind of the cost of paint, because they have volunteers who do things all over downtown. And they actually had, children from the Gurnville Elementary School paint the really beautiful, flower rainbow mural, that's back on Fourth Street, Fourth Street, so it's not a very expensive, we're not doing like, gilded gold leaf kind of a thing, so, we're pretty, duct tape and baling twine around here.
And children.
And children, yes.
Child.
Any other questions?
Anything else or anybody online? No?
I'm
All right,
not seeing
thanks.
any hands raised.
Thank you, Tracy.
And Vicky, as Claudia gets set up, I have a couple of
Okay,
county
okay.
updates that I want to add in. So you can start getting your computer set up. I just wanted to mention two things. We've been hearing from folks that we're going to be having some information in Supervisor Hopkins' next newsletter about the mobile support teams, how to access them. They're available 24/7 for people experiencing mental health crises. And I think sometimes the sheriff might not be the right responder. And so there'll be some information in the next newsletter about that. And then also tagging on to the Hacienda evacuation drill that Vicky mentioned. The Department of Emergency Management is looking for communities that would like to do evacuation drills, and they're looking for champions, like an actual an organizer person or a neighborhood group that would want to help with that. So if you know anyone in your communities, reach out to us and we can put you in touch with them.
Well, they should maybe participate in the August 27th Safer West County and.
To learn more about it. Yeah.
Because those are people who, train the trainer, so it's
Yeah.
people who are already involved in championing.
Yeah.
Okay. Anything else?
That is all from me.
Great, let's move into our main topic tonight, presentation from Sonoma Clean Power. Claudia, I'm gonna let you say your last name for me, please.
Yes, Claudia, Sisampu or Sisampu.
I would have butchered it, so thank you. Who is the Public Affairs and Advocacy Manager for Sonoma Clean Power, who's gonna give us a presentation on their services, their programs, and what we can kind of work with them on.
And the screen. So hi, everyone. My name is Claudia. Thank you for having me tonight. I am a West County local. I actually grew up in the Hacienda district and I still live there currently with my husband. So thank you all for
Claudia.
representing our communities and happy to be here.
Former map representative.
Yes, yeah, back in 2019 served on the map.
Oh, nice.
So I know we're sort of limited on time, so my hope tonight is just to give you all a better understanding of who Sonoma Clean Power is, what role that we play in the agency, do an overview of sort of the basics of billing so that when you're talking to constituents, you can feel more comfortable answering questions, but by no means expecting you all to be experts. So I'm gonna also share with you some ways to get in contact with our customer service and dive deeper into all the things I'll talk about tonight. If we have time, I'd love to cover some of the offers that we have available to customers, some easy, simple ways that you can save energy at home. But if we don't get to those, I did leave some flyers at the front with the agendas. So please feel free to take those home, and then I'll also stick around for the end of the MAC meeting. So you're welcome to meet me afterwards. So starting first with what is Sonoma Clean Power? So we are the local electricity provider for Sonoma and Mendocino counties. We are a public agency that was formed through a joint powers agreement between both Sonoma and Mendocino counties, as well as all the unincorporated cities within those two counties. The exception is the city of Healdsburg and the city of Ukiah, which both have their own municipal electricity providers. Sonoma Clean Power is the default provider of electric generation services. So that means if you move into Sonoma or Mendocino counties, you change residences, or you open a business account, you'll automatically receive electric generation service from Sonoma Clean Power unless you choose to opt out. We started serving Sonoma County back in 2014, and we expanded our services to Mendocino County in 2017. So what do? The main purpose of Sonoma Clean Power is to provide our customers in our community with electricity generated by more renewable and clean energy sources while still staying cost competitive to PG&E. Currently, we serve about 87% of the eligible homes, businesses, and city facilities within our service area. And really what we do on the generation side is we replace PG&E's electric generation services. So that means managing the purchasing and sourcing of the electricity that we use here in our local service area. So we contract directly with power plants and generating facilities, prioritizing more clean and renewable sources in order to meet our local demand for electricity. We also now take over the rate setting process of those electric generation services. So our board is made up of elected officials from all of the cities and the counties that we serve, including Linda. And our board passes its decisions and sets our rates in a public setting. They meet once a month. We also have a community advisory committee that reviews those rates. So you all are welcome to participate in that. And then sort of the last big component of what we do is we're really looking for opportunities to create more clean energy sources locally. And that's really to improve the energy independence and resiliency of our region in the long term. And also to improve reliability of our energy sources. So we don't replace PG&E as a whole. This graphic kind of shows we're simply focused on the generation side. So that's the sourcing of the electricity that we all use in our homes and businesses. Because PG&E owns almost all of the grid infrastructure in Northern California, they still maintain all the poles and wires that connect most of our homes to the bigger electric grid. And that's why you'll see on your bill, right? If you are a Sonoma Clean Power customer, you're still getting your bill from PG&E, but you'll have Sonoma Clean Power's charges on there. And that's because together we partner in order to provide you with now a choice for where you get your electricity from. So a little bit of history on kind of why Sonoma Clean Power was formed. We are what's called a community choice aggregator, or CCA. Back in the early 2000s, California went through an energy crisis. PG&E filed for their first bankruptcy. There was a lot of market manipulation, and the state was experiencing rolling blackouts, and energy prices were spiking. And understandably, the public went to lawmakers and said, how are you gonna ensure that this never happens again? And their solution was AB 117, or the Community Choice Aggregator Law. And what that did was allow cities and counties to create their own public entities to then take over the electric generation side, sort of the electricity business. So there's a number of benefits that created that enabled cities and counties to have more local control over what power sources are being used in order to generate the electricity that we use. So many of our cities and counties have their own climate goals, right, around reducing greenhouse gas emissions and supporting more renewable energy sources or building more renewable energy sources locally. Sonoma Clean Power is one vessel and one way for our local communities to have more control over actually achieving those goals. We now provide transparent and public decision-making. So like I mentioned, all of our board meetings are public, open for comments, even for things that are not on the agenda. So you all are welcome to participate in those. And we do have a community advisory committee that both members of the public can sit on. They review everything that the board of directors votes on. So it is an opportunity for the community perspective to be heard and provide recommendations for our board. Another great aspect is that because we're local to just Sonoma and Mendocino counties, we're able to really tailor our customer offerings to what the needs and the interests are of our local customers. So instead of trying to serve all of Northern California, we're really focused on what are some some offerings that can be really relevant and impactful for us living here. And because Sonoma Clean Power customers can take advantage of both the programs that we have to offer and PG&E's programs, our goal is really not to duplicate what already exists provided by PG&E or provided by other state agencies. We're really trying to fill in the gap and figure out, what does the community need and want regarding energy, and how can we better provide programs that complement that. And then lastly, CCAs, the model provides a greater reinvestment in local communities. So we're a not-for-profit public agency. So that means more of the money that we all spend on our electricity bills each month can stay in our communities. And all the revenue that we generate that doesn't go directly towards operations gets reinvested back into our communities through things like our customer offerings, rate stabilization funds, and a few other sort of community support programs that I'll mention briefly, including things like sponsoring local organizations and service providers in the work that they do. And so Sonoma Clean Power is just one of 24 other CCAs currently serving millions of residents all over California. So I wanted to touch a little bit on our power sources. So Clean's are two different services. Clean Start is our default option. So if you move into Sonoma County, you open a new account, you're going to automatically be enrolled in Clean Start. And so that power mix is made up of about 50% renewable sources. That includes solar, wind, and geothermal. And it's also 91% carbon free. So that means that the sources that we're using don't emit carbon when being used to generate electricity. And in that default option, we're always trying to stay cost competitive with PG&E so that we're not all having to pay more in order to have the benefits of having a local provider and get cleaner, have access to cleaner electricity. The second option I'll just touch briefly on is our Evergreen service. It's a premium option, so it costs a little bit more per month. It's 0.25 cents more per kilowatt hour that you use. But it is the only service of its kind in California. Sonoma Clean Power is the only provider in all of California that provides a 100% renewable and 100% locally generated service that is truly renewable 24/7. And we're able to do that because we have the wonderful geysers geothermal resource here in our backyard, as well as 6 local solar projects that we helped build throughout the years. So it's a really awesome service, especially for folks who really want to sort of take a climate action, but maybe for those of us who live in the forest, can't really do solar. So this is an option for you. And for the average residential customer, that translates to about $13 more per month.
What is CAISO?
Oh, the CAISO, yes. So that 9% is CAISO system power. So that's sources that are already on the electric grid that can't necessarily be tied back to anything in particular. But it's usually a mix of sources. It can include renewables, but primarily natural gas. Yeah. So I'll just touch on this briefly. Because we're a not-for-profit, our bread and butter is providing cleaner electricity and staying competitive. But we're able to get involved in a lot of other things that are really important to our community. Some examples being STEM education and supporting our local trades and workforce development, as well as sponsoring service providers and food banks that provide basic needs and services to folks. And then the last one I'll point out is advocating for our customers on the state and federal level. So making sure that there's someone going in front of decision makers and really holding folks accountable to the decisions that they make that can affect the affordability of energy, as well as the decisions they make about anything that can really impact our local community and our customer base. So we're out there in Sacramento, in San Francisco, really getting in front of the Public Utilities Commission and Energy Commission and lawmakers on behalf of our customers. Our GeoZone, this could be a whole presentation in itself, but I did want to sort of touch on this and let you all know that the GeoZone is one of our biggest initiatives that we're leading right now. And in partnership with the counties of Sonoma and Mendocino, we are leading an effort to build up to 600 megawatts of new next generation geothermal in our service area over the next decade. And it's really the demand for electricity, for clean, reliable energy is here today, and it's only gonna grow in the future. And so if we're getting serious about transitioning off of natural gas and other fossil fuels, we really need a clean resource that can run 24/7 and can give us the flexibility that natural gas currently does for our electric grid in California. Geothermal power is really that answer that we found. It's not the silver bullet, but it definitely would help. It's able to generate clean energy 24/7 and really is the best solution that we see for replacing natural gas on a large scale. Developers are building next generation geothermal, but they're not building in California. And here, where we have the world's largest geothermal field, there's a lot of potential for these next generation geothermal technologies, which have benefits like much lower water use than conventional geothermal, far smaller land footprint, and also far less emissions as well. So we're really excited about the opportunities that could create for our community, including things like having more highly skilled jobs in our communities so that folks who grew up here can actually stay here and make a good living, more reliability in the energy sources that we have here locally, and then of course, having lower customer costs in the long run. If we're able to secure the best deals for geothermal power here locally, we can really start to make a difference in customer costs in the long term. Now to billing. I know this is a big one.
Yeah.
I will caveat this with, I know folks who have solar and solar with batteries, your bills are infinitely more complicated. I'm not going to be touching on them today, but I am going to leave you with some ways to get in touch with our customer service reps, who are wonderful and can absolutely take the time to sit with you and walk through your very complicated bills. This is for sort of the average residential bill. So here on your first page, I'm kind of highlighting not every line on your bill, but just the ones that I think are really important for you all to feel more comfortable with. So the first one, right at the top of your bill, is where you'll find your account number that's unique to you and your PG&E account. You don't need to memorize this by any means, but if you are looking to sign up for any financial assistance programs, or you're looking to sign up for Sonoma Clean Power programs or PG&E programs, or get customer service assistance, you are going to be asked what your 10-digit number is. And then here in the summary of your bill, you'll see both PG&E electric delivery charges and Sonoma Clean Power electric generation charges. So Sonoma Clean Power's electric generation charges are solely for the cost of electric generation service. So that's the cost of generating the electricity that you use in your home or business. As you'll see at the bottom there, there is in fine print important messages where it does say this is not a duplicate charge, and these are for two different services. PG&E's electric delivery charges do not include electric generation charges, and that's purely for the maintenance, the repair, and the building of their transmission and distribution system. I'll leave it at that, and we can always come back to it. On the next page of your bill, you'll see under total usage, that is how much electricity that you have used in a billing period in kilowatt hours. And that's just how we measure your electricity usage. So for the average residential customer, we usually see those bills around, or we usually see about 500 kilowatt hours of use. Now that can vary widely based on how many people you have in your home, how well insulated your home is. If you have, big energy users like an air conditioning or an electric vehicle or a well or a hot tub, it may be higher than that. But that's sort of the industry average, about 500 kilowatt hours per month. I just wanted to mention heat source, especially for folks, if you recently upgraded to electric heating, you got a heat pump mini split or something like that, make sure that that is reflected on your bill so you can give PG&E a call and they can change that for you. And depending on what rate plan you're on, it can make a really big difference for you indicating that you're on an electric rate. The next that I want to point out is in PG&E's delivery charges breakdown, you'll see a generation credit. So that is the cost that they would have charged you for their generation services. And that's a way to also help explain to folks that you're not paying for a duplicate service. Right there, PG&E is crediting you back what you would have paid. And so all of us as electricity customers pay for both generation and delivery service every month. The unfortunate sort of comparison is for folks who only get billed by PG&E, both their delivery and their generation services from them. PG&E bundles both of those charges into one line on their bill. So there is that difference in seeing two line items if you're a Sonoma Clean Power customer or any CCA customer versus one line item if you're a PG&E customer, solely a PG&E customer. This next line, the power charge and difference adjustment, this is a toughie one. So essentially, back before CCAs existed, PG&E was responsible for purchasing power for all electric customers, right? And so they went out and purchased long-term contracts with different power plants or generating sources. When CCAs came onto the map, they said, hey, that's not fair. We had bought this power for those customers. Rightfully, we don't want all of those costs to fall on those who, for whatever reason, right? Maybe they don't have a CCA in their service area or they want to stay with PG&E. That cost burden shouldn't fall on them. And so the power charge and difference adjustment is charged to all CCA customers for recouping the losses on these long-term contracts that PG&E bought. It is their responsibility to go try and liquidate those contracts. And so if it's a year where they go out and try and sell it and energy is valued less at what they purchased it for, they pass on those costs to CCA customers. Now, if they go out in the market and the power's a lot more valuable and they make a profit, they have to credit CCA customers for that. So when we're comparing bills for folks, we do include that with our generation charges as well as the franchise fee surcharge, which is a fee that PG&E collects just to be able to run their transmission and distribution system on public streets. We couple that together so that you're really getting a total bill comparison, not just the generation service comparison, so that you can see what your total bill costs comparatively. And then the last little ones I want to mention, it's really important to know what rate schedule you're on, especially if you're on a time of use rate. So ETOUC is a pretty common one. And what time of use rates entail is that there are certain hours of the day where electricity prices are cheaper. And then there are certain parts of the day where electricity prices are a lot more expensive. So typically it's usually the hours between 4 and 9 p.m. And that's because that's when demand really spikes in California. Everyone's coming home, we're flipping on our lights, we're turning on our appliances. And at the same time, solar generation is coming down. And so it's really tough to kind of meet that demand. And so the price is a lot higher for energy at that time. On your bill, if you are on a time of use rate, you'll be able to see the breakdown of like when you're using energy on off-peak hours and when you're using energy on on-peak hours. And that can help you sort of determine, is there things that I can shift, activities that I can do at a different time of the day to help me save money on my bill. If you do sign up for Evergreen, this will be where you see on your bill that premium added onto your kilowatt hour usage. And then if you sign up for our Grid Savvy Rewards program, which I may or may not have time to cover today, this is where you'll also see your credit and then an energy commission surcharge we all pay, which goes towards state energy programs and projects. I know that was a lot, and I can stop there if we want to just take questions on billing, or I can potentially keep going.
I think maybe keep going.
Okay.
And see, yeah.
I just want this guy's bill.
Yeah, I know. Don't yell. And then I should say too, so we have a really amazing bilingual customer service team. We have a customer center in downtown Santa Rosa. If you haven't visited yet, we're right next to Russian River Brewery. Make a whole day out of it. You're welcome to bring your bill in there and do walk-ins, and someone will sit down with you and go through every line on your bill. can walk through your usage history and see, you know, if you're concerned and you've seen a big spike, is there something that led to that? They can help identify, you know, is there an appliance that might be shutting down, or is there, or is it everything looks reasonable and so highly recommend either coming in person if you like assistance in person, or you can always give us a call. Our call center is all in-house, so if you're speaking to someone on the phone from Sonoma Clean Power, they're in the back of our customer center in downtown Santa Rosa. And then if you prefer email, you can always email us at info@sonomacleanpower.org. So next, I'll touch briefly on sort of our offers and incentives that are available to Sonoma Clean Power customers. The first that I want to highlight is our energy savings boxes. So these are free to all Sonoma Clean Power customers. They've got a lot of really great devices in here, including LED light bulbs, a power switch, a smart socket, and also weather stripping for around your doors and windows. All you have to do is order it online or give us a call, or you can come to our customer center and we will ship it directly to your home.
I got mine last week.
Nice.
It is nice.
We also have a DIY toolkit that's available at all Sonoma and Mendocino County libraries. You don't need to be a Sonoma Clean Power customer in order to take advantage of this. You only need a library card. The only two libraries that don't have these boxes or these toolkits are Forestville and Occidental, unfortunately, for storage reasons. But in these toolkits, we also have LED light bulbs and weather stripping. But through a partnership with Sonoma Water, there's also some water saving products in there, and also tools to help you sort of better understand what's using energy in your home and how you can save. The next is our Grid Savvy Rewards program. So this is a really great program. It essentially rewards you financially for saving energy during hours of really high demand or stress on the grid. So you can get a text, an email, or a voice message from Sonoma Clean Power that says, you know, if you're able to save energy between these hours on this day, we're going to pay you $2 per kilowatt hour that you save during that time. A kilowatt hour is equivalent to about a 30-minute dishwasher cycle. So really good incentive to help remove strain on the grid, better understand how it's not just about how much energy we use, but it's really about when we're using energy too. That makes a difference for the climate and also makes a difference for our bills. So at the end of the season, it usually runs from May to October when we have our really hot months. You can either donate your rewards to one of our community partners, or you'll get a check in the mail, or you'll get a bill credit, depending on how much you save.
Tomorrow from 6 to 8.
Yeah, you got one?
I got one too.
And then the last offering I wanted to mention was that we do have a variety of rebates on highly efficient home appliances. So if you're looking for, you know, a highly efficient heat pump HVAC system or a new water heater, an induction range, smart thermostats, we do have rebates that are available, and those are stackable with whatever state and federal rebates are also available. And there are additional incentives for those who are enrolled in CareFera assistance programs or HERA. So if you come to our customer center, we're happy to talk more with you about sort of what your goals are on these home appliances, and also help connect you to whatever other rebates are available out there. And then wanted to end with just some simple ways to save that we can all do. Simple things that can really have a big impact on our bills. So first, feels like an easy one, but sometimes it's tough. Just really thinking about how you can avoid unnecessary energy use and waste. So making sure that you're unplugging devices and appliances when they're not being used, or using a power strip instead that can automatically shut off sort of that pull from your devices. That's just always trickling a little bit of electricity, even when it's not on. So that's a really good tip. And then especially in these hot summer months, using smaller appliances like microwaves or air fryers to heat up food instead of your oven, especially if you have air conditioning, because when you use the oven, it's just going to heat up your home and make your air conditioning work a lot harder. Replacing your old incandescent light bulbs with energy efficient LEDs can make a huge difference on your bill. We have those free resources available for you to get a good amount of LED light bulbs for free, and then start with the light fixtures that you use the most in your home. And then that last piece is just, you know, if you do get assistance in looking at your bill and there may be appliances that, even though it's hard to, it's expensive to upgrade, if your appliance is so old and not working well, you may be actually spending more money just keeping that thing going than potentially upgrading or looking at other options. And then the next is before you think about upgrading at all to an HVAC system or other bigger appliances, highly recommend taking a look at your home and making sure that it's well insulated and that the envelope is tight. Heating and cooling on average is the biggest energy expense for most households. It can be up to 50% of your bill. So, a cheap, easy way to address this is to use weather stripping and seal gaps around your doors and windows. Making sure that there's not gaps around your plumbing and electrical that are just leading out to the outside and just wasting that energy that way. Adequate insulation, upgrading to a smart thermostat so that you can really program your appliance, and then routinely cleaning your HVAC filters, another one. And then lastly, I don't think many people understand how much energy goes into simply heating up water. And so for many of us, just heating water can account for up to 20% of our bills. So when you're thinking about ways to lower your bill, and when you're using hot water, only running full loads of dishes and laundry. And then if you're on a time of use rate, avoiding those peak hours to save even more. Small things like lowering your water heater temperature and taking shorter showers can also make a big difference on your electricity bill. So that's all I got for you today. Happy to take questions.
Thank you, Claudia. Anybody on council? Betsy?
Hypothetically, if I have a studio below my home, I heat with gas upstairs, that's hypothetical. But the downstairs unit is fully electric.
Okay.
I've never been able to get an answer about whether I could qualify for the downstairs.
Like a same bill?
Yes,
Okay.
we're on 1 meter.
Okay. I don't have an answer for you, but I think I'm sure someone from our team could probably help with that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I have a couple questions for you. One is, when you were talking about about development of local renewable sources,
Yeah.
and you really mentioned the geothermal, what are some other projects that you're looking at?
Yeah, so I would say it's a great question. During sort of our first 10 years of service, we primarily contracted for electricity through power purchase agreements. And that's simply because it wasn't cost beneficial to own and operate our own power sources. Because we're a public agency, we can't take advantage of tax credits the way that private developers can. And so a lot of our portfolio came from contracts. Now in this next decade, we're really looking towards owning and operating our own sources. Currently, we don't have any that we own and operate. With the 6 solar projects that we helped fund locally and helped build, our role was really serving as sort of a relationship builder between landowners who were interested in getting a source of income and also, finding a way to maybe better use their land, and developers that were interested in building small scale solar. So that was kind of the opportunity the partnership that we were able to create
So
there.
those solar panels are privately owned and then they sell electricity?
Yeah, and they're leasing the land, the developers are leasing the land from local landowners and selling Sonoma Clean Power that electricity.
And I hear you say you don't have anything else like out there right now, but right now it'd be geothermal and solar. And how do we stay, I'm a customer, so like, how do we stay aware of what upcoming projects everyone's looking at?
Love that. So at our board of directors meetings and our community advisory committee meetings, we're always giving updates on that. Those are both monthly meetings. Our minutes are available if you can't tune in, but you can tune in virtually. And then as far as the geo zone, we do have a email updates You can subscribe to email updates on our website at sonomacleanpower.org/geozone. So those are kind of the two ways I would say, but if there is a project that is in process or that we're looking at, it will be talked about at our board meeting, our board of directors meetings and community advisory committees.
Can you give us the dates or the
cadence?
Yeah.
Let me see. I believe September's board meeting is canceled, and usually we do like one meeting a year. It's usually in September that they get a break. The next board of directors meeting will be on October 2nd. And then our next community advisory committee meeting will be on September 18th.
And the timing of it being October 2nd?
Our board of directors meetings start at 9 a.m.
And then one curiosity I had when you were talking about the power sources, and then you have evergreen premium option, $13 more than average. Curious just that if every one of your customers signed up for that, would there really be enough generation at that amount?
That's a great question. If every customer were to opt up to Evergreen tomorrow,
Right.
There would be a challenge and we'd have to like work around that.
Just making sure.
Yeah.
Tracking.
But ideal, and it's not one of our services that we're like really promoting right now, especially with how high electricity bills are, but ideally, like that's kind of where we want to go, is that we're providing more locally generated renewable power.
Yeah.
And the funds that we generate through Evergreen are really going back towards more opportunities.
That's what I was
to
getting,
build.
is that you're
Yeah.
funding that,
Mhm.
correct? Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
About the water that goes up to the geysers. Do you want to touch on that? How the
Yes, I can. I'll do it a little bit because I don't work
Okay.
for Calpine and I don't
Right.
want to speak on behalf of their operations, but
Can you repeat what?
Yeah, sure, yes. So the question was, or the comment was, a lot of people don't know about sort of the partnership between some of our local city jurisdictions and the geysers operation up at the geysers operation operated by Calpine. Some of the cities, especially like Santa Rosa, I believe, pumps a good amount of their reclaimed water up to the geysers, which is then used to be injected into the wells, which then generates steam and produces electricity.
Cool.
So I think the partnership was really that some cities, especially during like winter, were like, we have all this water and we don't know where to direct it. And the geysers were like, we have the opportunity to take it and utilize it. So that's kind of how that partnership works.
Nice.
So you're, the geothermal zone, that I saw the black, it's your entire jurisdiction from what I saw on the map.
So it's,
But that's not my question. My question is, as you move toward creating more geothermal plants, will these be owned by you or would?
yeah, not in this first sort of phase. Our hope is to work with private partners in order to get some of these next generation plants
Up and going.
built. Yeah. Yeah, we don't unfortunately have the capacity.
You don't have the money.
Money or capacity, but eventually, that's
Right.
kind of the goal, yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Any other comments or questions from the council? Anybody in the room? Michael?
Just a quick question, Claudia. Just not to get into the weeds, but could you explain what 600 megawatts is to our team here versus our
Yeah.
county load?
Yes, okay.
Yes.
Okay, I wish there was like an equivalent to like this many houses or, you know, this many things is what 600 megawatts would power, but to give you a reference, for our service area, I think the highest peak that we use is 200, around 200 and maybe 20 megawatts, 220 220 megawatts, sorry, at our highest peak load. So 600 is far more than just what we need here. It would far cover what our demand is, but our hope is that because our region is sort of prime for this kind of exploration, if they can prove that these technologies can work here, and one benefit I forgot to mention is that these next generation technologies can likely be placed in a lot more areas than conventional geothermal can. Right now, the conventional geothermal has to have those perfect, unique fractures in the earth that we have up at the geysers. But with next generation geothermal technologies, you don't need those same perfect, unique fractures. You just need hot rock and far less water, far less land footprint. So our hope is that if we can prove that here, that can be replicated elsewhere throughout the state. And if we're able to stand up these projects here and get the benefits of things like tax revenues and jobs, there are many other power providers within California that would be happy to take on those additional megawatts for their own service.
Anyone else?
That's a question.
Oh,
You
Mike?
talk about your Empower project that you pioneered.
So we have what we call our Empower Initiative, and that was launched a couple years ago, really with the understanding that we were not reaching all of our customers. We still struggle to this day, right? To really explain what it is that we do, why we're on your bill, and what benefit we provide to the community. And so we wanted to think really strategically about how we could improve both the reach, the relevance, and the impact of pretty much everything that Sonoma Clean Power does, from our program design to our policy advocacy. And so one of the big elements of Empower is building trust with our community through nurturing relationships with local organizations and service providers, as a way to reach people where they already are, receive information through channels that they already trust, and then also open up the door for more community input to get back to Sonoma Clean Power and to get incorporated into our work. We have our board of directors meetings and community advisory committees, but as you all probably know, it's hard to get folks out there, and there's a lot of important work that we're doing, and we want to hear from the community. We want them to feel a part of it and feel ownership over the work that's happening. So, you know, in building relationships with organizations, service providers, local community leaders, and also tribes is another big, a big initiative that we're doing to improve our tribal relations and make sure that tribal voices and perspectives are incorporated into our offerings and our strategic planning. That's really the basis of Empower, is flipping the sort of process of us creating solutions or offerings in-house and then going out in the community and saying, don't you want to participate? Or like, here's why you should care. Flipping that to be, what does the community want? What are you interested in? What's your biggest priorities? And how can we as an agency create the solutions, create the offerings that are going to make that happen for our community?
Sorry, just one quick, are there any incentives coming up for like the e-bikes or the EV chargers? Are those programs gone, or what's the plan?
I think right now we don't have any for EV chargers or e-bikes. We kind of pivoted. We did run 1 year of EV bike incentives, specifically for our Carafera customers. But we switched the incentive this year to working directly with workplaces. So workplaces in Sonoma and Mendocino counties, helping their employees get e-bikes to reduce commuter emissions and provide training and kind of have it be like a workplace culture. So we're kind of testing that. But that kind of comment is one that you absolutely could bring to the board of directors and just say like, hey, that's something I'm really interested in and wanting to know kind of if there are any plans to do that again.
expansion news.
Gotcha. Well, I could say, yes, at our last board meeting, our board formally extended an offer to Lake County to potentially join Sonoma Clean Power, so it would become even more regional of Sonoma, Mendocino, and Lake. Right now, it's in Lake County's court as far as, you know, whether or not they want to move forward with that, but it's Lake and then the communities of Lakeport and Clear Lake.
Anybody else in the room? Anybody online, Debbie? Or
We
Tracy?
do have one question online. Patty, please unmute to speak.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Thanks so much. Quickly, how are you taking into account the impact on like local flora and fauna in your plans to expand your geothermal plants?
Yeah, great question, and definitely the types of questions that we want folks to be bringing to the engagements we do around the geozone. We're at such an early phase right now that like we're nowhere near breaking ground or having even permits filed. So I think those kinds of details are yet to come, but we certainly want the community to be involved in expressing, you know, what are their concerns, what are their hopes and expectations, and then what are the questions that you might have around, you know, the impacts of development and what sort of expectations do we want to hold our developers to in order for these projects to be something that we as a community can support.
I think I'm gonna add a little something to that, if that's okay, So I had the opportunity actually to travel to Utah with one of Claudia's coworkers to actually view an advanced enhanced geothermal system that had been developed there. And I know that you're not in this room and you're online, but the actual foot is approximately the size of these tables that are right here. It is the smallest footprint of an energy power plant that I have ever seen, and sort of around like what the equivalent of this U table for the Mac. I mean, it's really like, and if you're online, you can't see that. It's really almost like two dining room tables next to each other, basically, is the equivalent. Was a cleared platform, because there is quite a bit of infrastructure that needs to come in order to drill sort of the pipes and the kind of fracturing that's occurring deeper in the rocks. But then all of that goes away and you're just left with this open platform and a very, very small above ground footprint. So I just want to share that we're absolutely, like everything that Claudia said, we're going to do our due diligence. There is a CEQA process. There's all of these permits that need to be pulled. But I just want to say that I have never seen a smaller, lighter footprint on an energy plant ever in my life. It was shocking. And this is 24/7, 365. So it is super exciting from an environmental perspective. So I just wanted to give that like pitch of, I was shocked. I was expecting this huge thing. I've been to oil refineries that look like evil Disneyland, Matterhorn, like kind of, and Space Mountain. And then you're like, oh wait, it's like a crib. It's like a children's play yard pen that you put up in a living room. Like it's very, very small. So I just want to share that.
Anybody else online?
No other hands raised.
Great. Claudia, thank you so much. I was really looking forward to that. Really appreciate it. Okay, so we'll move on here. We've got some discussion of the community engagement for district formation ad hoc committees. The report that we got from the consultants after we've met with them. And we got it too late to really discuss it in July. So hopefully you all had a chance to read it. And would love to hear your thoughts. Anybody on the committee? On the council? I mean, Carrie, Betsy, Patty, and I were the ad hoc, and our main goal with the consultants, which did not translate well into this report, is how we really want to make sure that anything moving forward takes into account the individual communities that we have and sort of the cultural footprint for each of our communities and how we might move forward or not move forward. And some of the things we might want to look at for each community and not taking a sort of overall approach to it.
Right, and Nikki, I'd add that I think also what came up in that ad hoc conversation was, what role does the MAC actually want to take? And I don't think that's been clearly defined, like, is this something that we want to actively do? So I think it's really important that we parse out that, yes, our individual communities are very different with different needs, you know, we have some obviously shared things, but, and then to that, what are we gonna do? Because I felt like there was this level of indecision, like, we won't, there's all these ideas, but no, we're not gonna do anything. So that felt like a really big question for this committee to.
Well, we can revisit it. That question came up after the governance study report. came
Right,
out,
right.
So, but certainly that's something we could have more discussion about. And at that point, there was a concern about, what people thought of as a conflict of interest, because one of the sort of areas that we could pursue as communities is looking at how the MAC can have more, power over budget and sort of that piece. But I'd be happy to have that discussion again. Thank you. Yeah.
But we also talked about how the ad hoc after the governance study, which looked at whose job is it to move this forward? And I see here that, we're talking about Monterey, Park and Rec and Forestville Planning Association. There's nothing here mentioned about Burnville, but we did discuss in the course of the ad hoc, the fact that the chamber is kind of taking the rein, or wants to take the reins on this. And we're very concerned about getting other voices heard,
Yes.
aside from just business.
And I don't think we were complete in the list of.
Certainly not.
Yeah.
And that was echoed from Forestville, so thank you, yeah, that's
Yeah.
the same thought.
Any
So
other
that's
comments?
something that should be added to the feedback to the consultants?
Well,
that-
I just don't think they represented what we said very well, so we certainly can qualify a little more that we weren't saying those were the definitive groups and
Right.
all the only groups that should be involved.
Right.
Yes.
Right, okay.
And they do talk about reaching other
Mhm.
constituencies, but not really anything specific.
Yeah, Nick and I were in conversations about trying to pull together a town hall. I think you probably remember this. For some time this fall.
I remember that,
around the
yeah.
top.
Is part of that.
Yeah. Right.
And Nick came and talked to some of us in Forestville about what you all were thinking about doing, so. Has that gotten any farther?
Which Nick? What?
Spencer's husband? I don't know what his last name is.
Schwan.
Oh, there you go.
Right.
Thank you.
Yes, we know it.
I should know what his last name is. Any other comments?
Well, as far as next steps, I think we need to clarify what the MAC's role is, because if their MAC isn't gonna take an active role in it, I don't see how I struggle to see how it's gonna move forward. I mean, we learned about that in the governance study a year ago, and certainly there's conversations that have been had in different communities, but the lack of movement that I see, I think, is because there's not somebody taking that. And I do understand the concerns around the conflict of interest. But until somebody steps up and does that, I don't see this moving forward.
I agree.
Well, I mean, we don't have to take the recommendation of the governance study that's one of the things that we should think about. We can just take the MAC piece out if that's a problem for people in terms of conflicts. Right? We could just look at the community service districts and some of the other things.
Was that really the reason that we decided the MAC shouldn't be involved?
Yes.
Well,
was it.
also, in order to form a new district, the people who are going to be running that district have to step forward and say, we have the energy, or our community is willing to take the risk, and that whole piece. So it's not that the MAC really has the authority to say, we are now going to create this new entity, this new district, and that's what this consultant is here to do, to provide technical assistance to people who are curious to explore more. Am I, Linda, is Linda still here? Is that correct? Okay, do you want to add anything? Okay, all right.
And I think you're right, somebody's gonna step forward, it could be Mac to not run it,
Yes,
but to at least.
But
get
yeah,
the
to
momentum
put the
started.
pieces together, I think that's,
Just provide impetus.
yes.
Yeah.
And to say like, here are the
Well,
steps.
impetus and a decision,
Yes,
because there are going to be a lot of people in this community who've been bitten and are not willing to move forward with anything changing.
well, there are communities that maybe shouldn't change some of what they're doing, so
Exactly.
that's sort of our, our discussion about that, so. So I don't know what the process would be, Debbie, do we know when the consultant's coming back to us?
Yeah, well, and it was on, I should have printed it for tonight, it was on last month's agenda, sort of the steps. For the, or maybe it was even the one when we formed the ad
I
hoc.
think that was it.
And so the stage that we're at right now is really focusing on how the consultants are going to reach out and make sure that any groups that have an idea about moving one of these forward are identified.
Yeah.
And that's all this ad hoc was about, and that's really where tonight's conversation should be focused on how we can provide feedback to the consultant RSG about community outreach. And one thing that I think that they did capture well, and that you mentioned, is instead of having another big one town hall meeting, is have smaller focused meetings with interested parties. And so if there's any specific feedback on how they should do that outreach, that would be really valuable right now. And the other things, this is a year-long contract, so there will be other phases, and I can pull that back out from the previous agenda.
And Joe, I think, the idea of doing a town hall was not to discuss and moving on from the governance study to forming a district or deciding what to do. It was more about doing it like the Forestville Town Hall.
Yeah, I mean to
Having the various,
Right.
the various county entities make presentations about that are pertinent to this community.
Patty, you should mute.
She has her hand up.
Oh, she does?
Yeah.
Go ahead, Patty.
I'm so sorry, I didn't realize I was unmuted. One of the steps that I think should be taken is for this consultant to meet with the several communities that have, or districts that have said, we want to meet with you now. We have actual issues, we have actual questions, come meet with us. For my district, it's Monte Rio Park and Rec, and they are ready to meet with this consultant. It's just this process of trying to decide how to do the process has been months and months now. But I think the first steps would be to meet with any communities that say, we'd like to start talking to you now. And then maybe second, how to consider reaching out to other communities that aren't yet quite sure how they want to proceed. Thanks a lot.
No, I agree, Patty. And it
Very
will
much
give us
so.
some clarity about how maybe other things can be moved forward, but I'd say maybe all of us in our communities should be having the conversations maybe around this, and there might well be communities that just are like, I don't have any bandwidth, or we don't want to do it, or whatever that is, whatever that looks like. But specifically, the Monte Rio Rec and Park has asked, so let's get them connected.
And any suggestions on how to assess if an outreach to people that we haven't heard about already, or do we think that that's what they're looking for?
Yes, well, it's been the COMCOM, right? We've been dealing with this issue for the entire length and breadth of the MAC. So we gave them some suggestions. We keep looking for others, but, I think if people are out in their communities and they just really feel like it's not gonna go anywhere unless we're involved in it, like you're saying, then we need to engage more.
Well, the only energy here was from the chamber.
Yeah,
And just from my perspective, that's one-sided energy. That's
Yeah.
one constituency. That's not a community voice.
And that was part of our discussion is how do we
Yes.
reach the parents and the, you know. And the non-English speaking community.
Because I wasn't here at the beginning with the governance study, but I read it. I'm just, for clarity's sake, can we just say, what is the what that people can get help with? Like, what is the what that the RSG helps with? It seems very convoluted to me. but-
Or vague.
it's vague for
Vague,
sure.
there you go.
You're looking at me as if I have an answer to it, and I don't. I would say that I'm thinking of it as this governance study showed us some avenues we might go down to solve some of our problems. And now we need to figure out, like, how do we move down any of those paths, or do we move
Right.
down any of those paths?
How many of
Maybe
you
that's the better
Are
question.
familiar with the governance study and the meetings that happened before?
Just know that RSG consulting we close money. What?
Yeah.
I'm not paying for it.
And did you read the governance study? Do you know about it?
I
Yeah, she-
emailed it, so I've
yeah.
read it. I mean, it's like,
Yeah.
I've read through it, but I'm still, what I'm trying to find out is that, like, at our ad hoc meeting, RSG said there is, for lack of a terminology word, a limited number of people they can help, right? Like, there's like our groups or initiatives, and see, all that's so vague to me. I'm like, can you give me some examples of what that means? And so my concern is that if very well put together organizations are first in line to say, hey, we want your help in doing this, but if it's so vague, we don't understand what they can help us with, maybe smaller groups, individuals, or less represented won't know that this opportunity is here. And that's why I keep saying, what is the what? Because I don't mean to be dense about it. I'm just a little unclear.
So what I hear you saying is that we need something to inform the community about what we want them to participate in.
Yeah.
Right, and-
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
Well, and the
you know.
whole purpose of the governance study was a group of individuals, most of them business owners, got together and they wanted to create our own local government. They wanted to incorporate. And a lot of other people came out, and so a lot of people attended that first meeting and there was a lot of feedback.
Mm.
And it kind of, that whole thing got pulled back. And we moved forward with a couple of different ideas to address what people feel the need is.
Right, the services they were getting, the
Right.
control over what was
Yeah,
happening.
I
in
think
their
that's the
communities.
easy part, is what's lacking.
Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Right, but
Absolutely.
how to create that is another, or how to address what's missing is the problem.
Yeah, and we have had, as you know, when we had our Forestville Town Hall, those of us, who were there from the MAC, we had the information about the governance study. We tried to engage with people about it. Beyond that, I'm not sure, because we've come up short even in our other communications on other topics, so.
This is a hard topic to communicate to
It's
people.
very hard.
And if you're looking at a study that's going to be an hour to read, if you
Well-
haven't participated, then
We did work on Lisa Nommensen and I, last year, or the year before, we put together a little cheat sheet, we called it like a one pager on.
yes, that's
Sort
yeah.
of pulled out. Yeah, because even the report called down to 33 pages is long, so, yes, I understand. And
Somehow we need to get that concise version of what the what is. out to people to see if there's anybody with the energy who wants to lead this or pursue this in some ways.
So some printed materials that explain what's going on that
We need to
can,
broadcast it
Yeah,
in some way.
it needs to be more than just the print. We need to
I
have a
think there is a
discussion.
concise version, which is the list of concerns that were identified.
Right,
Yes,
It's a page and a half long table.
yes.
I think the work is done. That's the list of.
well, but.
issues
Well, that was
that's
feedback.
identified. There's
That's the
public
easy
safety,
part, but what
there's
are the?
public safety, there's road quality,
Sure,
there's Parks and Rec access, there's bilingual, there's translation services, river safety, education,
emergency.
they're all there, so I think.
And that all
That would
came
be a
from
good
the
way.
governance study discussions. It
It's
was
in
all,
the government study,
Yes.
yeah, and it all came from the public, so
Yeah.
I think that's a good way to attract the public's interest. Is the public has already expressed interest in all of these things, so that's what RSG can help with, is if the public wants help with access to Parks and Rec, or wants help with translation services. That's what RSG can do, is provide a pathway to governance solutions for that.
But we also, the conclusion of the governance study also indicated 4 or 5 different ways to move forward to address these problems.
Well, yeah,
And that's,
well, and then not, all- of course, that, like we've said a million times now, that specific communities have their concerns, right? Not
Sure.
everybody's concerned about the parks, for example, right? So, yeah, I think getting down to that, like, what in this community is the biggest issue? You know, is it safety? Is it roads? Is it, what is it? And then, moving forward from there. But I understand not wanting to have it, you know, all the time sucked out by the people who are kind of interested now, but we need that example, we need that to move forward, I think. Especially with Monterey, since they're just,
Suppose you're ad hoc meeting again?
we weren't going.
no, there could, another ad hoc could form in the future for a different phase from the consultants, but at this point, they were just asking for feedback from the MAC on how to best do community outreach. So in the future,
Okay.
when they need to ask questions again, and I do believe, I'm trying to find in my email, but I'm not seeing it. I'm reading something that they're looking at creating some materials in order to be able to share this out with the community.
Well, it sounds like the ball's in their court.
Yeah, right,
It is.
yeah, it is, it
Rivers
is.
is gonna
This
provide
is-
more feedback if needed.
Yeah, this is just an opportunity to give them any final words on how to best engage with the folks who live in the lower Russian River area. They're doing this throughout the county in areas that aren't MACs and, you know, different kinds of unincorporated areas. So we're one area, and so they're developing their communications strategies. And they're turning to you all because you know the community's best. So I think we have good information. And yeah, it's a year-long contract. So I'll send that out to everybody again, because it was on the agenda when we formed this ad hoc. But I put some information about what the different steps are. I think there's 7 phases, and we're just phase 1.
Okay.
Any other comments? Okay,
Or is there any?
Debbie, you've got,
Is there any?
public comment, sorry, any more public comment on the process? Anybody online?
No hands raised.
Okay, so Debbie, are you gonna
Number 10, yeah, the
cover the firms that are coming in?
Yes, so, just real briefly, this is the beginning of the season of, developing the appointments for the 2025, 2026, 27, MAC. And there are 4 areas that have open seats. And they are Forestville. But would you like to, are you wishing to continue? Do you want to think on that? It's your seat, you'll think about it. Guerneville has 2 seats. Spencer would like to continue, and our alternate seat is still vacant in Guerneville. And then the Guerneville South Pocket Canyon. We need to figure that out, but we definitely have an alternate seat, and then I need to look back at appointments and see whether Betsy is terming out, but you said that you would be willing, if people don't step up, to continue, which is allowed by our bylaws.
I remember having a discussion when my first full term began, that I had been appointed midterm.
Midterm,
So
right.
that piece didn't count.
Right.
Yeah.
I think you're appointed in 22, right?
Do you understand what time I get up in the morning?
I know. So we'll look back at the documentations for sure, but in any case, we
Is it
will be
both
needing at
Forestville?
least one from,
Is it both?
Yes, but-
Forestville's?
it's only one.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. And then Rio Nito, Pip is terming out. And so, we do have 1 seat open in Rio Nito.
Do we have an alternate for?
We do, Jen.
Oh, Jen.
Yeah. And her term is not up. She was just reappointed. So.
Okay.
So what I wanted to just let you know tonight, what it's looking like, we have to work backwards in order to get this on a Board of Supervisors agenda, the appointments. So looking at the December 9th or the December 16th agenda so that we can start with our new appointees in January, we would need to get that on the agenda by November 5th or November 12th. So I'm aiming for November 5th in order to have a backup. And then we would have our application deadline September 24th. So I'm working right now on putting together a flyer. This is a draft, and thank you to Aziza for helping with the draft, but it's still in draft form. But I'm happy to take, we kind of shortened some things, made it less text intense, but any input that you all have on making that a better document, you can reach out to me, and I'll be working on this in the next week or so. And then getting those posted, and then having an applicant forum in October so that people can, you know, if there are multiple applicants,
yeah.
and then people can tell us about themselves and why they're interested. So that's the general timeline.
That's coming up fast, isn't it?
It sure is. Yeah, which is why we're talking about it now in the summer.
It's Forestville 1 and 2.
Forestville has 1 seat. Ty's seat is Ty's term is ending. But he can,
Lonnie's too.
yes, but he filled in
Oh, that's.
because Lisa went out, so he had 1 year, he was a 1-year term, and then he was reappointed already, so you're not on the same.
Got that.
Yeah.
That was 2 years ago.
Mhm.
But you have just had 1 term, right?
Right.
1 term, yeah, so you're eligible to go if you.
Okay, thank
Give
you,
us that.
Debbie.
You're welcome.
Anything else? Let's adjourn.
Don't we need a motion to adjourn?